Welcome to this IGotAnOffer case interview structure video, where I will cover everything you need to know about the different question types you will come across in case interviews. First, I'll talk to you about the main secret you need to be aware of to succeed at case interviews. Second, I'll analyze the 7 different types of questions you will come across in case interviews. At IGotAnOffer, we've helped more than 20,000 candidates prepare for case interviews so far, and more than 80% of people who train with us end up getting an offer. This case interview guide summarizes a lot of what we've learned in the process of doing this, so let's get started. As mentioned in the first part of this case interview guide, you will have 5 to 10 interviews in consulting. That means you'll need to crack 5 to 10 cases in a row to get a job offer. The secret to success in consulting interviews is therefore to be able to consistently crack cases. In our experience, candidates who improvise a new way of solving cases for each and every interview always end up making a costly mistake. Instead, candidates who succeed and end up getting multiple job offers are those who always use the same method to crack these case interviews. This is what enables them to succeed interview after interview. The objective of your preparation should be to learn a step-by-step method to consistently crack cases. Now, this might sound hard at first, but it's actually easier than you might think. Over the past few years, we have analysed hundreds of case interviews, and the main thing that we have learned is that they can all be broken down into 7 types of questions. So if you learn to crack each type of question individually, you will know how to crack cases overall. Candidates who have used this approach in the past have found it really effective because it enables them to quickly build confidence by identifying the parts of the interview that you're already good at, and also the ones you can progress on. So let's take a look at what each of these 7 types of questions are so that you can start thinking about how you would answer each of them. For each type of question, I will first explain what the question is and then give a brief example. The first type of question is situation questions. At the beginning of the case, the interviewer will explain the situation in which the company is. This should enable you to identify which type of business problem the company is facing and to understand what specific issue you have been asked to help with. For instance, your interviewer could say something like, your client is a car manufacturer whose profits have been going down, and the CEO has hired you to help them turn this situation around. Although it's not strictly speaking a question, your interviewer will expect you to be proactive in this part of the interview and make sure you understand the situation correctly. The second type of question is framework development questions. After explaining the situation, the interviewer will then ask you to think about a framework to analyze and solve the business problem. This framework should be well structured and cover the key areas that you will need to look into to solve the case. A typical example of a framework development question would be, what are the different areas you would look at to identify the cause of declining profits and turn the situation around? Once you have developed a framework, your interviewer will sometimes expect you to explore it in more details. This will be the case in interviews where you are looking for the root cause of an issue. For instance, if the company's profits are going down, it could be because the revenues are going down or costs are going up. Exploring your framework here would make sense. In our example case, your interviewer would say something like, can you explore your framework to find the root cause of the profit issue faced by the company? This part of the case interview aims to test whether you are able to find the root cause of an issue in a structured way. The best method you can use in this situation is to explore your framework using a hypothesis-led approach. For instance, you might start by saying, my initial hypothesis is that the profits issue faced by the company is driven by revenues. You would then investigate the revenue side of your framework to identify if that is indeed where the root cause of the issue is. If revenues have been stable and are not the cause of the issue, you would then update your hypothesis and move on to the cost side. Once you have agreed on a framework with your interviewer and explored it, they will often provide you with data in the form of texts, charts, or tables. This is usually the sign that your interviewer is about to ask you a quantitative question to test your data interpretation and math skills. For instance, in our car manufacturing example, your interviewer might provide you with a table showing volume and price data for top cars sold by the company. And they might ask you, what do you think is going on with the revenues based on the data available in this table? This essentially means your interviewer wants you to calculate revenues using the data that you've got to understand if that's where the profit issue is coming from. In certain cases, your interviewer will also ask you a quantitative question, but they won't provide you with any data for you to answer that question. In these instances, you will therefore have to make assumptions to estimate the number you were asked to calculate. For instance, your interviewer could ask you something like, could you estimate the market size for cars in the US, making your own assumptions? Your approach to answer this question will be similar to the other quantitative questions, but you'll have to make your own assumptions to come to an estimate. In addition to quantitative questions, your interviewer will also ask you qualitative questions about the situation to test your creativity. This is what we call creativity questions. For instance, they could say something like, now that we know that the profit decline is driven by a decrease in the number of SUVs sold, what are some of the ideas you have to turn the situation around? This type of question is intended to test your creativity. Finally, at the end of your case, your interviewer will ask you for recommendations and conclusions. This is similar to a client asking a consultant for their recommendations at the end of the project. You could see this as the final deliverable of the case interview. Your interviewer would typically say something like, the CEO of the car manufacturer gives you a call and asks for your final recommendation. What would you say? And you would then be expected to give a recommendation to the CEO. Right, so to summarize, the objective of your preparation should be to learn a step-by-step method to consistently crack cases. And our suggestion is to do this by breaking down cases into different types of questions. If you learn to crack each type of question, you will be successful interview after interview and get multiple offers. Okay, so that's it for case interview question types today. If you have any questions about case interviews, don't hesitate to ask them down below and our team will answer them. The next thing you should do is watch our video on the differences between interviews at McKinsey and at other firms. This is a really important video as it will show you how to tailor your training to each firm. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the link here.